The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest hall ever built by intelligent hands. Its ceiling rose higher than any human building, with walls of silver metal that reflected the light of 100 crystal orbs. Around a vast, circular table sat the leaders of the great races. Some had smooth skin like polished stone, some had scales that caught the light, and some had bodies of flowing water held together by strange forces. At the far end stood the human delegation, a small group of men and women in dark uniforms. The leader of the council, High Speaker Varian of the Sarathi, raised his long arm and called for silence. His voice was deep and cold. "Humans," he said, "you have broken the balance of the stars. You have spread beyond your assigned worlds. You have built weapons without our permission. You have claimed planets that belong to no one, without first asking this council. For these crimes, you stand accused." Marcon, the human ambassador, stood at the center of the floor. He was tall, his hair silver at the temples, and his uniform was simple but clean. His eyes did not waver as the High Speaker spoke. Around the chamber, alien leaders whispered to one another, some in their own languages, some through small translators at their sides. "Humanity's only crime," Marcon said, his voice steady, "is survival. We settled empty worlds because we needed homes for our people. We built weapons because the frontier is dangerous. We have obeyed the laws that protect life and peace. We have harmed no council world, yet you treat us as if we are a threat." A voice from the opposite side of the table hissed. It belonged to Counselor Threx, a reptilian being with golden scales. "You are a threat. You move too fast. You change too quickly. In a few centuries, you will control more worlds than the Council itself. We cannot allow such a future." Murmurs rose again, some agreeing, some silent. Marcon looked around the chamber. He saw a few faces that seemed uneasy, but none spoke for him. The High Speaker stood. "The decision has been made. Humanity will be exiled from all council space. You will leave every world you hold within our borders. You will not return. 10 cycles will be given for your departure. If any human ship remains after that time, it will be destroyed." The words fell like heavy stones. For a long moment, the chamber was silent except for the hum of the translators. Then, one by one, the alien leaders struck their symbols of office against the table, sealing the vote. Marcon's aides looked at him in shock, some pale, some trembling with anger. He gave them no sign of fear. Instead, he stepped forward and spoke once more. "You believe you are ending us?" he said, his voice carrying to the farthest corner. "You believe that exile will break us. But humanity does not break. We endure. We adapt. We will leave as you command, but we will not vanish. One day you will see us again, and the stars will remember this day." Gasps rose from some seats, but the High Speaker only turned away. "Take them from the chamber," he ordered. Guards of various species escorted the humans out. The heavy doors closed behind them, and the sound echoed down the long hall. Outside, Marcon and his team walked, in silence, toward their shuttle. Beyond the wide windows, the capital world of the Council spread out in shining towers and busy skyways. It had been the heart of galactic order for thousands of years. Now it was closed to them forever. In the shuttle, Marcon's second-in-command, Risa, finally spoke. "What now? Do we go back to Sol? Do we try to fight this?" Marcon looked at her. "We do not fight them here. They have the numbers. They have the power in this place. But beyond their borders, the galaxy is vast. We will go where they fear to go. We will find new worlds, and we will make them ours. We will build ships greater than theirs. And when the day comes that they remember our name, it will not be in pity. It will be in respect." The shuttle lifted from the landing pad, engines glowing in the soft blue air. It rose above the towers, past the high spires of the council hall and into the thin line of space. Around the human flagship, other ships waited, carriers, transports, freighters, ready to take their people away from the only star systems they had known in this part of the galaxy. Marcon stood at the viewport, watching the planet shrink beneath them. He thought of the billions of humans who would have to leave their homes, who would face unknown dangers beyond the safety of Council space. He thought of the children who would grow up in strange skies, never knowing Earth or the other old worlds, and yet he felt no despair. Humanity had crossed oceans on a small blue planet. Humanity had stepped onto the moon with machines weaker than a Council shuttle. Humanity had survived wars, famine, and disaster. Exile was just another challenge. "Set course for the frontier," Marcon ordered. The fleet's engines flared, and one by one the ships vanished into the dark. Somewhere, beyond the Council's maps, lay their future. Somewhere out there, they would rise again. The human fleet moved like a river of light through the black sea of space. Hundreds of ships, from massive carriers to small scout craft, traveled together beyond the borders marked on Council star charts. The known stars faded behind them, and before them stretched a vast emptiness filled with strange constellations and unmeasured distances. Life aboard the ships was tense. Families lived in converted cargo holds. Engineers worked long hours to keep old engines running. Soldiers trained daily, knowing the frontier was not empty, but full of dangers the Council had warned about for centuries. Yet there was no turning back. The exile had left no other choice. On the command ship Horizon, Ambassador Marcon now served as the fleet's acting leader. In the main control room, he stood beside Captain Thalen, a broad-shouldered officer with calm eyes. Before them, the starfield shifted as the fleet passed through a narrow corridor of safe space between two regions marked as unstable anomalies. "How far until we reach the next possible system?" Marcon asked. 3 days, Thalen replied. "Scouts report a yellow sun with 2 planets in the life zone. We will need to survey them before we decide on settlement." Marcon nodded. "Order the civilian ships to rest crews as much as possible. Once we arrive, everyone will have work to do." Across the fleet, people prepared for the unknown. Children whispered stories about alien monsters. Scientists checked their equipment for atmospheric analysis. Farmers tended small hydroponic gardens that would one day be the seed for fields on new soil. On the 3rd day, the target star appeared ahead, glowing warm and steady in the darkness. 2 worlds circled it, one blue-green, one brown and dry. The blue-green planet, marked as Candidate 1 on the fleet's maps, became the focus of every eye. A dozen scout ships broke away from the main fleet, descending toward the atmosphere. They scanned oceans, mountains, and plains, mapping the surface in detail. Within hours, their reports reached the horizon. "Candidate 1 has breathable air," the science chief announced. "Gravity is close to Earth standard. Oceans are rich in fish-like life forms. Land areas are mostly forests and grasslands. No signs of intelligent civilization." Excitement spread through the fleet. After weeks in cramped ships, the idea of open air and solid ground filled people with hope. Marcon authorized a landing. The first human craft touched down on a wide plain near a winding river. Grass waved under the wind, and the sky was bright and clear. Soldiers secured the area while engineers began setting up temporary shelters. Farmers brought seedlings to test the soil. Children ran on the grass, their laughter carried on the wind. But the frontier was never without danger. On the 2nd night, strange shadows moved at the edge of camp. Patrols reported tall, 4-legged creatures with glowing eyes. They did not attack, but they watched from a distance. The science team warned that such predators might strike if they sensed weakness. Marcon ordered guard posts and perimeter lights. "We are guests here," he told the settlers, "but we must be ready to defend ourselves." For several weeks, the settlement grew. More ships landed, unloading supplies and machinery. Wooden frames for houses rose beside temporary metal shelters. Small fields began to appear where grass had been cleared. The fleet used the planet as a supply base while scouts explored further. Yet not all worlds were as kind. The next system they visited had a green world that looked inviting from space, but was covered with poisonous air. Another held a moon with rich mineral deposits, but constant meteor showers. Every step into the frontier taught the exiles something new. They learned to repair engines with fewer parts, to grow food in harsher soil, and to navigate by stars the Council had never named. Each hardship made them stronger. Each small success pushed them further. One day, during a routine scout mission, a small group of human ships came under attack. The enemy was fast and aggressive, sleek craft painted in black and red, their weapons striking without warning. They were not council ships, but pirates from an unknown species. Captain Thalon led the defense. The Horizon and 2 escort frigates moved in, their rail cannons firing precise bursts. Human pilots, trained for quick thinking, used sudden maneuvers to dodge enemy fire. After a fierce exchange, 2 pirate ships were destroyed and the rest fled into the dark. The victory lifted the fleet's spirit. For the first time, they had faced a serious threat without council protection, and won. The soldiers celebrated, but Marcon reminded them of the greater meaning. "This is only the beginning," he said in a speech broadcast to all ships. "Every challenge we overcome, every world we settle, is a step toward our future. We were sent into the unknown as punishment. We will turn it into our strength." Over the next months, the human fleet established 3 more colonies. One became a farming world, one a mining hub, and one a defensive outpost at the edge of a dangerous nebula. Trade began between them, carried by fast courier ships built in orbital yards. Though they were far from the Council, whispers of their progress traveled back through traders and explorers. Some alien merchants began visiting the new settlements, curious about the humans who had survived exile. They found communities that worked hard, defended themselves fiercely, and welcomed fair trade. By the end of the first year, the exiles were no longer just a scattered fleet. They were the beginning of something greater, a chain of worlds, linked by purpose and determination. The frontier still held dangers, but the humans had proven they could face them. And in Marcon's mind, the thought grew stronger each day. One day the Council would hear of this. One day they would know that exile had not ended humanity, it had set them free. The human colonies on the frontier were beginning to find their rhythm. The farming world of Greenfield sent grain and vegetables to the mining hub on Ironhold. The outpost at Nebula Gate kept watch for incoming threats. Trade ships moved between them under the protection of small escort fleets. It had been almost 2 years since the exile began, and for the first time, many settlers felt a sense of stability. But stability in the frontier never lasted long. One cold morning on Greenfield, as the sun rose over the endless plains, a warning came from Nebula Gate. The signal was short but clear. A hostile fleet had entered human territory. They were not pirates in small craft this time. They were the Varkari, a warlike alien clan known for raiding settlements and enslaving survivors. Within hours, the Horizon and 2 other capital ships were moving toward Nebula Gate. Commander Alrin, a young but sharp tactician, was given command of the defense. Marcon remained on Greenfield to coordinate from a secure communications hub, trusting Alrin's skill. In the Nebula Gate system, the humans saw the enemy for the first time. The Varkari fleet was large, 12 heavy warships and at least 20 smaller attack craft. Their hulls were covered in dark red markings that glowed faintly, a sign of their clan identity. The Varkari had no interest in diplomacy. They opened fire the moment the humans came into range. Alrin's voice was steady over the fleet channel. "All ships hold formation. Target their lead destroyer. Use coordinated strikes." The human ships moved with precision. Rail cannons and missile batteries locked on the first enemy ship. tearing through its shields in a focused barrage. The Varkari were aggressive, but they relied on intimidation more than tactics. When their lead destroyer exploded in a flash of fire, their attack line wavered. The battle became a contest of discipline versus rage. The Varkari charged again and again, but the human fleet shifted formations, forcing the enemy into crossfire zones. Alrund's frigates drew the smaller attack craft away, while the capital ships concentrated on disabling the heavier vessels. One enemy cruiser tried to break through toward the planet, but the Horizon intercepted it. Captain Thalen's voice came, through the comms. "They will not pass." The Horizon's main guns fired in rapid succession, ripping the cruiser apart before it could threaten the colony. Hours passed, and the fight dragged on. Human ships took damage, one frigate was lost, and several others were heavily scarred. But their line held. As the sun of Nebula Gate rose over the battlefield, the Varkari broke off. Their surviving ships fled into the nebula's depths, leaving wreckage and silence behind. The humans had won. Messages from Nebula Gate's settlement poured in, thanking the fleet. Some settlers openly wept over the comms. Others simply saluted the soldiers as heroes. For the first time since their exile, humanity had faced a major power in open battle and emerged victorious. Back on Greenfield, the news spread faster than any ship could fly. Farmers, miners, and traders all stopped work to listen to the official report. Marcon addressed the colonies through a secure broadcast. "Today we have shown the frontier what humanity can do," he said. "We were cast out by the Council. Many thought we would fade away. Instead, we stand stronger. We will defend our homes, our people, and our right to live free among the stars. This victory is not the end. It is the beginning of a future that belongs to us." Celebrations erupted in every settlement. On Ironhold, miners lit fires in the open air, their flames visible for miles. On Greenfield, children ran through the streets waving handmade flags. Even in the cold corridors of the orbital yards, workers cheered and raised their tools like trophies. But Alrund knew better than to relax. He ordered the damaged ships repaired at once. Patrols were doubled around Nebula Gate, and scouts were sent deep into the nebula to track any returning Varkari ships. Victory was sweet, but it also marked humanity as a new player in the region. And new players always drew attention. Attention soon came. Within weeks, traders from distant systems arrived at human ports. Some came to sell goods, others to learn about the fleet that had defeated the Varkari. A few were representatives, from alien clans seeking alliances or trade agreements. Humanity's reputation was changing. They were no longer seen as desperate exiles, but as a growing power. Marcon met with his council of colony leaders to discuss the new reality. They gathered in the main hall of Greenfield's government building, a structure still half-built but sturdy. Around the table sat leaders from each world, military commanders, and a few civilian representatives. "We have made a mark," Marcon said. "The frontier knows we can fight. Now we must show we can lead. Trade will grow, and with it, influence. But so will the danger. The Varkari will not forget this loss, and the Council may hear of us sooner than we wish." Commander Alrund leaned forward. "Then we must be ready. We should expand the fleet, strengthen defenses, and train more pilots. If war comes again, we will not be caught unprepared." The leaders agreed. Plans were set in motion for new shipyards on Ironhold and a larger military academy on Greenfield. The colonies began pooling resources, building faster ships and stronger weapons. From the darkness of exile, a spark had been lit. The first victory had shown the frontier what humanity could become. For Marcon, the path ahead was clear. This was no longer about survival alone. This was about shaping a future where humanity could stand as equals, or perhaps even as leaders, among the stars. The victory at Nebula Gate changed everything. Before the battle, humanity had been seen as a scattered group of exiles, trying to survive in the harsh frontier. After the battle, they were spoken of as a rising force, a people capable of defeating a feared enemy and defending their territory. Traders brought stories of the human fleet to distant systems, and soon new faces began arriving at human ports. Merchants from alien worlds offered goods in exchange for food, minerals, and weapons. Some came out of curiosity, others out of respect, and a few because they feared being on the wrong side of humanity's growth. In the Great Hall of Greenfield's capital, deals were struck between human leaders and alien envoys. Marcon watched it all with careful eyes. He knew that trade brought prosperity, but also attention. Too much attention could draw unwanted interest from the Galactic Council or other hostile powers. Yet without trade, the colonies could not grow fast enough to secure themselves. On Ironhold, the shipyards expanded. Great steel frames of new warships rose against the pale sky, surrounded by cranes and shuttles carrying parts from the mines. Engineers worked day and night, driven by the knowledge that every finished ship was another step towards safety. Children played in the shadows of massive hulls, their games filled with words like captain and admiral, showing how the fleet had already become part of the culture. In Greenfield's academy, young recruits trained for space combat. Simulators recreated the battle at Nebula Gate, and instructors taught how discipline and teamwork had turned the tide. Commander Alrin himself visited the academy to speak to the cadets. "We are not here to conquer without reason," he told them. "We are here to survive, to protect, and to grow. But if anyone threatens what we build, we will be ready." As the colonies grew, the leaders began to see the need for something more than loose cooperation. At first, each world had its own council, making its own laws and managing its own fleets. But the dangers of the frontier demanded unity. Marcon called for a gathering of leaders from every settlement to be held on Greenfield. The meeting was tense from the start. Representatives from the smaller colonies feared that joining together would mean losing their independence. The leaders of the larger colonies argued that without unity, humanity could never stand against greater threats. Marcon stood at the center of the debate. His voice was calm but firm. "When we were cast out, we had only our ships and our will to survive. Alone, each world is strong enough to defend itself for a time, but together, we can defend all. Together, we can build more than survival. We can build a future." The discussion lasted for days. In the end, the leaders agreed to form a single government, to unite their worlds under one banner. It would be called the Human Stellar Dominion. Each world would keep local control over its affairs, but the Dominion Council would decide matters of defense, trade, and exploration. When the agreement was signed, celebrations broke out across the colonies. Flags bearing the emblem of the Dominion, a silver star surrounded by 7 smaller stars, were raised over government buildings and warships alike. For the first time since their exile, humanity had a single voice in the galaxy. Unity brought speed. Ship production increased. New colonies were founded in carefully chosen systems. Diplomatic envoys were sent to friendly alien races, offering trade and mutual defense agreements. In return, some aliens offered access to resources and technology unknown to the humans before. One of the most significant advancements came from a small insectoid race called the Kivren. They traded a design for self-repairing ship armor, a technology that allowed human warships to recover from damage during long voyages. In exchange, the Kivren asked for protection from a rival species that raided their outer settlements. The Dominion agreed, sending a small fleet to patrol the Kivren's border. This mission not only secured the alliance, but also gave human commanders experience operating in foreign space. It was a quiet but important step toward becoming a recognized power. On Greenfield, Chancellor Rin was chosen as the first head of the Dominion. She was a skilled diplomat, known for turning potential enemies into allies. Rin understood that strength was not only built with weapons, but with trust. Under her leadership, the Dominion began shaping itself into something that could last for generations. But unity also brought new challenges. Some settlers disliked the idea of being bound to a central authority. Others feared that humanity's rapid growth would eventually provoke the council into taking action. These voices were few, but they reminded the leaders that not all danger came from outside. Marcon, now serving as an advisor to Chancellor Rin, often walked the streets of Greenfield in the evenings. He saw children playing without fear, markets full of goods from a dozen worlds, and workers building ships that could travel to the edge of the known galaxy. It filled him with pride, but also with caution. The seeds of an empire had been planted, and empires could grow strong or collapse, depending on the choices made in their early years. In the deep reaches of space, far from the colonies, scout ships marked new worlds for settlement. Some were lush with life, others barren but rich in minerals. Every discovery brought more ships, more people, and more ambition. The frontier, once a place of exile, had become the foundation of a rising power. And though the Galactic Council had not yet spoken, Marcon knew the day would come when they would look beyond their borders and see what humanity had built. When that day came, they would not be looking at scattered refugees. They would be looking at a united Dominion, ready to stand, ready to defend, and ready to shape the stars. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, the air was heavy with quiet tension. Delegates from dozens of species sat in their seats, their expressions ranging from calm to uneasy. For years, the Council had not spoken of humanity, except in passing. They had exiled them, and to most, that should have been the end. But now, whispers were spreading through the star systems, carried by traders, mercenaries, and wandering explorers. Those whispers told of the human stellar Dominion, a united force of former exiles who were building fleets, founding colonies, and striking trade agreements with alien powers far beyond Council space. High Speaker Varian of the Scifi tapped the polished surface of the central table. "The matter before us is simple," he said, his voice deep and deliberate. "Have the humans violated their exile, and if so, what action must we take?" Councillor Threx of the reptilian Varn hissed in reply. "They were sent into the dark to fade away. Instead, they grow stronger. They build weapons, they claim worlds, and now they control trade routes. If left alone, they will be a threat greater than any we have faced." From the far side of the table, Councillor Lyra of the Gentle Mayan shook her head. "They have not attacked our space. They have kept to their exile. We cannot punish them for succeeding where others would fail. To destroy them now would make us the aggressors." A ripple of disagreement passed through the chamber. Some nodded at her words. Others looked away. In the shadows of the upper tier, a group of quiet observers from neutral systems exchanged glances. They had heard rumors of human fleets defeating the feared Varkari, and of their new technology gained through trade with the Kivrin. Such stories did not fit the image of a defeated people. Varian raised his hand for silence. "We must decide if humanity's growth is dangerous enough to require intervention. Our records show their fleets are now equal in strength to several Council member states. Their ship designs are unconventional, but effective, and their colonies grow quickly." Councillor Darn of the Avian Tarek leaned forward, feathers bristling. "They will not stop expanding. That is their nature. I have studied their history. On their home world, they spread across every landmass in a few short centuries. In the stars, they will do the same. If we wait, we may not be able to contain them." "But perhaps they should not be contained," Lyra countered. "The frontier is dangerous. The humans have brought order to places we have long ignored. Worlds once ruled by pirates now trade openly. They have defended smaller species without demanding tribute. That is not the way of a conqueror." Sci-Fi. Debate stretched for hours. Every argument circled back to the same point. Humanity was no longer the desperate, scattered people they had been at the time of exile. They were becoming a power in their own right, and that power could not be ignored. While the council argued, information flowed in from spies and informants. Reports spoke of new shipyards on Ironhold, advanced planetary defenses on Greenfield, and exploration fleets mapping deep space. Some rumors even claimed the humans were working on a massive flagship capable of leading entire fleets across the galaxy without resupply. The evidence troubled even those who wished to leave humanity alone. Varian studied the gathered data in private after the meeting. He could see the truth in it. The humans were building something far larger than a defensive force. Outside the council chamber, the galaxy's smaller nations listened carefully. Many had felt the council's control for centuries, sometimes as protection, sometimes as pressure. To them, the rise of the human stellar dominion was a sign that the galaxy's balance could change. Some quietly sent envoys to the Dominion, hoping to form early alliances. In the Dominion's capital on Greenfield, Chancellor Rin was well aware of the growing attention. She met with Marcon and Commander Alrin in her private office. "The Council knows of us now," she said, her voice steady. "Their spies are in our markets. Their scouts watch our borders. We must be careful with every move." Alrin crossed his arms. "Careful, yes, but not afraid. If they come against us, we must be ready. We should continue expanding the fleet." Marcon agreed, but added, "Strength is not just in warships. We must secure more allies. The Council will think twice if we stand with many, not just ourselves." Rin nodded. "Then we will do both. Build our strength and weave a web of friendships the Council cannot easily tear apart." The next month saw the Dominion's diplomatic missions increase. Human envoys visited distant systems, offering trade, mutual defense, and shared technology. In return, they gained resources, knowledge, and quiet promises of aid if war ever came. Yet even as friendships grew, so did the shadow of the Council's attention. Merchant ships reported being stopped and questioned by Council patrols. Several Dominion scouts vanished near the border, their signals lost without trace. It was clear that the Council was testing the limits of the exile order. In the Council chamber, the debates became sharper. Some demanded immediate action before the humans could grow further. Others argued for waiting, fearing that open conflict would unite the frontier under human leadership. Varian listened to all, but kept his own decision quiet. He knew the moment of choice was coming, and when it did, it would shape the fate of both the Council and the Dominion. Far away, in the heart of the Dominion, Marcon stood on the balcony of the government hall, watching the city lights spread out beneath the night sky. He knew the Council would come, whether in words or in war. When they did, humanity would be ready, not as scattered exiles, but as a united people who had built something worth defending. Years had passed since humanity's first exile. The human stellar dominion had grown from scattered colonies into a network of worlds united under one banner. Trade routes connected distant planets, massive fleets patrolled borders, and young leaders studied strategy, diplomacy, and exploration. Humanity's reputation had spread across the galaxy, and even the Council watched with unease. On the command bridge of the flagship Horizon, now refitted with new technology and stronger armor, Marcon stood alongside Chancellor Rin and Commander Alrin. Below them, fleets of ships glimmered in formation, ready to explore, defend, or expand. The Dominion had become a true power. "We have come far," Marcon said quietly, watching the stars. "From exiles to a force that the galaxy respects. From scattered refugees to an empire." Rin nodded. "And yet, there is more to do. We must protect our people, continue to grow, and show the galaxy that humanity is a stable, capable civilization." Strength alone is not enough. Wisdom and fairness matter. Alrin spoke from the side. Our fleets are unmatched in this region, but there are still threats. Pirates, rival clans, and the Council's scrutiny remain. We cannot let pride blind us. Marcon smiled faintly. Then we continue as we always have. Careful, adaptable, and united. That is how humans survive and how humans thrive. In the months that followed, the Dominion expanded further. Survey teams discovered new star systems with habitable worlds, rich in resources and unclaimed by any known civilization. Colonists traveled in great ships, establishing settlements that soon flourished with farms, cities, and industries. Engineers built advanced energy networks, while scientists developed medical technology and faster-than-light travel improvements. Diplomacy became as important as military strength. Human envoys traveled to alien worlds, offering trade, sharing knowledge, and forming alliances. Some species joined voluntarily, impressed by humanity's combination of courage, ingenuity, and fairness. Others remained neutral, but respected. The Dominion's growing influence. The Council, now fully aware of humanity's rise, sent delegations to observe the Dominion. They found orderly colonies, disciplined fleets, and a people determined to build, not to conquer unnecessarily. Reports from these missions reached the Council chamber, causing heated debates among its leaders. Some urged immediate action to stop the humans. Others argued that humanity's growth could benefit the galaxy if guided correctly. Back in the Dominion, Marcon addressed a gathering of colony leaders. "We have built an empire from exile," he said. "Our fleets protect our people, our alliances secure our trade, and our colonies grow stronger every day. But remember, the future is shaped not just by ships and weapons, but by the choices we make. We must lead with fairness, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and show that humanity's strength can be a force for good." As the word spread across the colonies, citizens felt pride and hope. Children learned the history of the exile and the victories that followed. Soldiers trained not only for war, but also to protect the innocent. Farmers, merchants, and engineers knew they were part of something larger, a civilization that would endure for generations. The Dominions. Fleets ventured beyond their known borders, exploring systems that had never been charted. On one distant world, humans discovered a mineral that could power ships for longer than any previous technology allowed. On another, they found a peaceful alien species eager to trade knowledge and culture. Every discovery strengthened the Dominion, not just in power, but in influence and respect. News of humanity's rise eventually reached even the furthest council members. Some began to reconsider their initial judgment. Exiles had become a civilization capable of self-governance, trade, diplomacy, and defense. Attempts to challenge them openly had already failed. The galaxy had changed, and humanity had changed. Marcon stood on the balcony of the capital city of Greenfield, looking out at the lights of the thriving settlement. Ships moved in the sky. People bustled in markets, and children played without fear. The Dominion had grown beyond survival. It had become a civilization capable of shaping the stars themselves. Chancellor Rin joined him. "They will not forget us," she said. "The Council, the frontier, every species watching, they will know that humanity was cast out, yet returned stronger than ever." Marcon nodded. "They will know that humanity cannot be ignored, that our exile was not an end, but the beginning. We have built an empire, not for vengeance, but for life, growth, and the right to shape our own destiny." Alrin appeared at the balcony doorway, reporting from the fleet. "All sectors are secure, supply lines are strong, and the colonies report steady growth. The Dominion is stable." Marcon smiled. "Then it is time to continue. Explore, protect, build. Humanity's story is far from over. This is only the first chapter of an empire that will endure for generations." As the twin suns set over Greenfield, Their light reflected on the towering buildings and gleaming ships. Across the frontier, the stars seemed to shine brighter, carrying the story of a people who had been exiled, who had faced despair, and who had transformed their exile into power. The human stellar dominion had arrived. It was no longer a scattered fleet of refugees. It was a civilization united, respected, and feared. Humanity had shown the galaxy that even in the face of exile and opposition, determination, unity, and courage could build an empire that shook the stars. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the known systems, new stars waited to be explored, new worlds to be settled, and new challenges to be faced. Humanity was ready for all of it. They had been exiled, but now they would shape the galaxy itself. The stars had been silent witnesses to humanity's exile. Now, they shone under the banner of the human stellar dominion, an empire born of survival, forged in victory, and destined to endure for all time. The day began quietly. The twin suns of the frontier system cast their pale light over the human fleet assembled near the rim of the Dominion. Ships of every size, from massive capital ships to fast attack craft, floated in precise formations. Every gun turret, every engine, every sensor had been checked multiple times. Commander Alrin walked along the main bridge of the horizon, eyes sharp, mind calm. "Scouts report the Council fleet approaching," reported Lieutenant Vera, her fingers moving over the holographic display. Red blips swarmed along the edge of the star field. "They are larger than we expected. At least 20 capital ships and 50 escort vessels." Alrin nodded. "Position our ships defensively. Capital ships in the front, escorts on the flanks. Keep the civilians and supply vessels behind protective screens. We fight smart, not reckless." The human fleet had grown in strength since its first victory at Nebula Gate, but the Council fleet was massive, organized, and disciplined. It had been sent not to negotiate, but to enforce. Marcon stood on the bridge, looking at the formations. "Remember," he said to Alrin and the other commanders, "we fight not only for our colonies, but for every human soul exiled. We cannot fail." As the Council ships entered firing range, the silence of space shattered. Energy beams and plasma bolts cut through the void, hitting shields and exploding in flashes of blue and gold. The first salvo was a warning, a test of strength. Alrin's orders were precise. "Hold fire until the main ships line up. Let them commit before we strike." The Council vessels moved as one, their coordination perfect. But humans had learned over decades of survival and exile. They moved unpredictably, shifting formations, concentrating fire on the enemy's lead ships, and forcing them to spread thin. The horizon fired its rail cannons with perfect timing, tearing through shields of the nearest destroyer. In space, above Nebula Gate, a smaller battle raged. Human attack craft darted among Council escorts, hitting weak points, disabling engines, and drawing fire away from larger ships. Pilots worked in teams, anticipating movements of the enemy with a skill honed over years of frontier patrols. The Council commanders, used to obedience and fear, were caught off guard. Their massive fleet relied on discipline, but humans fought with creativity and adaptability. When a Council cruiser attempted to flank the horizon, Alrin predicted the maneuver and set a trap. Hidden turrets and missile arrays fired in perfect sequence, crippling the cruiser before it could strike. Hours passed. Ships were damaged on both sides, and the void glowed with explosions and debris. Human medics and repair crews worked tirelessly, moving between ships to patch hulls, restore power, and save lives. Despite the chaos, communication remained clear. Every human vessel acted in unison, their strategy precise and coordinated. On the horizon, Alrin monitored the enemy flagship. "We need to take their command ship," he said. "Disable it, and the rest will falter." Marcon nodded. "Do it. Use the squadrons trained for this. Strike hard and fast." A team of human fighters carrying powerful warheads launched toward the Council flagship. They weaved through enemy fire with skill and determination. Explosions rocked the hull as the warhead struck, breaking the ship's shields and disabling key systems. Without its leader, the Council fleet faltered. Confusion spread among their ranks, and some ships began retreating in disarray. Alrin pressed the advantage. Human ships advanced, disabling remaining cruisers one by one. The fleet moved with a rhythm born of trust and training, striking precisely and retreating when necessary. The largest ships of the Council were forced to withdraw, leaving the humans in control of the battlefield. When the last Council vessel fled, silence returned to space. Fires burned on damaged ships, and debris floated like stars in the void. The human fleet had won. Back on Greenfield, colonies watched the battle unfold through communications relays. Cheers erupted as the victory became clear. Children ran through, streets waving banners, and workers in shipyards paused to celebrate. The Dominion had defended itself against the mightiest force in the galaxy. In the aftermath, the human leaders assessed their losses. Ships were repaired, pilots trained again, and defenses strengthened. Alrin convened the fleet commanders. "This victory is important," he said, "but it is only the beginning. The Council knows we are strong now. We must continue to grow and prepare for what comes next." Marcon addressed the Dominion Council. "We have faced their fleet and survived. Our people saw that we could protect them, that we could turn exile into strength. But the galaxy has noticed. Some will respect us, others will fear us, and some will seek to challenge us. We must remain vigilant and united." The victory also brought unexpected consequences. Alien species that had once avoided human settlements began sending emissaries. Some offered trade, others alliances. Some simply observed, curious about the people who had fought the Council and survived. Humanity's reputation was now a shield as well as a sword. On the horizon, Alrin looked out at the stars. "We have shown the Council that humans are not weak," he said quietly. "We are clever, adaptable, and willing to fight for what we build. This is only the first of many battles that may come." Marcon placed a hand on his shoulder. "Yes, but today, we proved something else. We proved that exile does not make a people vanish. It makes them stronger. And one day, the Council will see that strength not as a threat, but as proof that humanity belongs among the stars." The human fleet regrouped and returned to the Dominion's territories. Colonies prepared for the future, expanding settlements, building new ships, and training new crews. The first major battle had been won, but humanity knew that in the frontier, peace was temporary. Yet for the first time since exile, hope was stronger than fear. And in the vast darkness beyond known space, the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter under the banner of the human stellar dominion.